Every deal has unique emotions, unique stakeholders, legacy issues, and hidden landmines.
Abhishek, it is often said that M&A is like a marriage. The investment bankers, the deal execution teams, they play a role of matchmakers.
पंडित जी मुहूर्त मुहूर्त बाद में सोचेंगे पहले इनकी मर्जी तो मैं जानूं।
अरे नहीं नहीं मेरी तो हाँ है।
आपकी हाँ?
हाँ मेरी
तो
तो
मेरी भी हाँ है।
They bring both the parties together. But once the deal is signed, then the real test begins, right?
I might not have brought the target company's people very quickly on the PMI team, but that's a big mistake, which I have done. I have learned it hard way. You can have the best integration plan on paper. I have hired McKinsey or BCG or Bain to do the integration. What will happen if people are not ready to integrate?
Can companies also test their compatibility before diving into an M&A process? We went for M&A, who would have thought this? But yeah, it's true.
What I will say is becoming independent was like switching from a cruise ship to a kayak. Currently, there is no brand behind you, no process to hide behind, and definitely no IT help desk when things crash.
One of my colleagues who works in PMI just said that it is just a very fancy acronym for project management.
This is where I differ. No, PMI is not just a fancy term for project management.
What kind of person should never handle PMI or a carve out? What soft skills or egos actually derail the value creation?
Hey guys, welcome to another session of Pulse with Chat. And I know it's been a while, but it's going to be worth the wait. Yes, today we've got a professor, a founder, an M&A expert with over 2 decades of work ex and an avid podcaster with us. Yes, it's none other than Abhishek Mittal. So please join me in welcoming Abhishek to the channel. Abhishek, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Costa. Thanks, Varun, for giving this great opportunity. Look forward for a great chat.
Yes, we look forward to that too. Abhishek, it is often said that M&A is like a marriage, right? The investment bankers, the deal execution teams, they play a role of matchmakers. They bring both the parties together. But once the deal is signed, then the real test begins, right? Living together, building trust, aligning cultures. And you being an PMI expert, uh, you know, you would have seen this marriage process firsthand, right? Drawing on this analogy, today modern day couples are testing their compatibility by going into live-in relationships before marriages. Can can companies also test their compatibility before diving into an M&A process?
Okay, great question, Kaustav. And before getting into this analogy, right, I would say like we all have seen a Daimler Chrysler merger, right, which was a perfect merger of a power couple. I will say perfect marriage of a power couple, but until it wasn't. So when they joined hands, there was a cultural mismatch. Different decision making styles and clashing of operating models, which turned this $36 billion marriage into a divorce. So it's not easy. When we are talking about like living together, it's not easy. And in the corporate world, I don't see that will be a good option. But what we can do to avoid these challenges which Daimler Chrysler has faced is, I will say there are 3 points which I will look into whenever we are looking at such kind of mergers. Is one, do a deep cultural assessment. Like companies increasingly use cultural surveys, interviews, site visits to identify what are the cultural gaps early on. So this is one thing, right? And then we have to do a thorough due diligence. A robust process uncovers operational, financial, HR, technological capabilities, right? Because these days we all hear the ghost stories of HR, cultural differences, and we can just totally avoid it when we do a proper cultural diligence. So that can be a primary method for testing the waters before a full commitment. And the third, I will say, is strategic vision alignment. Both the companies, they have certain core values, they have strategic vision. Both the organizations need to come on the same page, that both the organizations have or follow the same strategic vision. So I will say before they get into a marriage, these three things can ignore certain divorces.
That's a great analogy, to be honest, and kudos on that. But now, just let's take the marriage concept a bit ahead. And what about the live in, if you think about it? from a deal perspective.
Okay. Um Varun, what I will say is that it is very difficult to get into a living when we are talking about mergers, but we can do a trial collaborations. And the companies might have used it in the past, like they have formed a joint venture before they got into a marriage. They tested the waters. They got into a partnership, can be a long term partnership to understand if they can work together, or can be a pilot project, right, where they have to come together as a corporate living. So these things can help them identify what are the clashes, what are the cultural differences, if a strategic vision difference of these two companies, and that can help reducing the divorce rate.
Right. I mean, living for M&A, who would have thought this? But yeah, it's true. Right. Abhishek, coming to our next question. One of my colleagues who works in PMI just said that it is just a very fancy acronym for project management. Now,
Ah.
let us understand what is the hard truth here. Is it underestimated, overhyped? Is it that important? Can you give some examples where lack of PMI focus has killed the deal?
Oh, amazing question, Costa. Why? Because uh, I do teach in colleges, right? And a lot of my students also ask the same question that Abhishek, how PMI or SMO different from a PMO, right? A project management, because it's often misunderstood as just project management, right? Post merger integration, or you call it a separation management office, whatever it is, right? We have this is not a fancier label. It's not a fancier label of project management, but there is a truth behind this. When we own, because what happens is, and let's take a step back, because PMI or SMO, they leverages classic project management skills. They do planning, they do risk management, they do milestones, they look at interdependencies, and they look at all the aspects of project management. But it's a uniquely complex challenge which no one talks about. Why? Because it's a crossroad of culture, leadership, operations, technology, and strategy, and maybe more, right? And there we lose the value of project management, just a project management, because when you become a crossroad of so many different functions and capabilities, and a strategic view of the leaders, right, then this post merger integration or separation management office plays a very crucial role. So if I will say that, okay, you asked me a question like, okay, is it underestimated? Yes, it is underestimated, because in a lot of deals I have seen where companies have not taken PMI seriously, 60% of those deals have failed, right? Because they don't think that there is a very interesting role of PMI to take the deal to the closure and achieve the desired objectives. Because it's not a very generic project management, it is a long term vision for the organization. But on the other hand, I will also say that sometimes in a lot of companies, it is considered as overhyped. Why I'm saying it is, sometimes people only look at PMI as a checkbox, right? They see that, okay, have we done these 5,000 tasks? Have we achieved these milestones? Then it becomes a nothing more than a project management. And but here you are just calling it a very beautiful name, a PMI or an SMO. But the real truth, the harsh fact is, they are not talking about strategy. They are not talking about how we can make this deal successful. They're just marking it. Okay, I have to do 10 tasks by tomorrow. Have I done that? Done. So, so this is where I differ. That no, PMI is not just a fancy term for project management. I hope I'm able to answer it.
That statistic you mentioned about 60%, that is actually something that can send a shiver down any deal captain's spine. To be honest, it's nerve wracking. Coming back to the notion bit which you were mentioning, there is
Mhm.
one that even I have heard and I've come across. It's normally whenever you mention a deal or an M&A, it's always a big fish, small fish comparison where the big fish is going to swallow the small fish.
Yeah.
Now, if we see in the past 2 decades, a lot of Indian companies have been acquiring companies abroad which might be a bit more superior, maybe in technology or human capital or some certain processes they have straightened it out, maybe in that case.
Mhm.
Now, if you come across such a client or such a target which thinks it's really superior, then the acquiree and still they are going ahead with it, what is your take and how do you deal with it in such a case?
Varun, great question and very real question in current environment. If we will see, there are number of deals which are happening currently in the Indian market, and Indian companies are going global in the developed market. So, so let's admit it, right? This is often an implicit bias that companies in developed markets are superior in terms of processes, tech, or human capital, but like it is not 100% right, because Indian companies have come a long way in the last 2 decades, right? As you said. And they're not just catching up, they are setting benchmarks. If you will see, like everyone looks at our HDFC Bank as a benchmark in banking industry, right? We are not just looked at as the second world, third world countries no more in terms of business. So, but let me break it down into a few key points just to understand that how we can look at it, and I will try to give some examples here as well. So redefining the narrative is very important. It's not about dominance right now, it's about synergy. Whether you are acquiring a company in developed market, or you're acquiring an Indian company, or you're acquiring a company in developing market. And take the example, right? We all have seen what Tata Motors have done with Jaguar Land Rover acquisition in 2008. No one would have thought of the success which Tata Motors had with this company, right? Because at the time, many in the West saw this as a mismatch. Okay, that how can Indian company run a luxury British brand? And I have just focusing on luxury British, right? If it would have been any other thing, it would have been very different. But here it was a luxury British brand. But Tata's didn't walk in the arrogance, right? That okay, we like we are acquiring a company which is on a bankruptcy. No, they gave all the respect because they understand they are running such a important brand for not just for British but for the global business people who own this Jaguar Land Rover, right? Because that is the brand which was created because of that. So they let JLR continues operations independently, gave them the capital, confidence, reinvent themselves, right? And we all have seen what a turnaround story in front of our eyes. So first, redefine this narrative, right? Second is address the ego and don't attack it. So most of the time it happens, and Costa, coming from your analogy, right? It happens in marriages as well, right? Address that ego and don't attack it, because sometimes the target companies may operate with a bit of like we know better energy, and that happens. I have seen that in one of my acquisitions. We acquired a company where the company had better operational capabilities. They have better profitability margins. So we took that secret sauce of the target which we
Hmm.
acquired and then adopted those best practices in our organization. And that's what I'm saying, like address that ego. You don't have to just attack it that, oh, no, you guys are not great. We are the good one. Address it, right? And we have seen that. If I will again take an example of from an Indian company, and now it is not developed market, Bharti Airtel's acquisition of Zain Africa. Again, very successful integration and cultural and operational challenges you cannot even imagine, because it's an African country which is not into the greatest of the shapes, right? But there was a price focused, high efficiency company. Bharti, we all know, right? They're the price focused and efficient company. And Zain, on the other hand, has a different mindset. They had frictions, but Bharati as an organization, they learned to navigate those differences by blending local leadership with Indian strategic insight. What sometimes happen is the companies change the leadership with the new leadership. That will not help in such cases, right? This is very important. And then I will say another point is, let the results do the talking rather than keep talking about that. Okay, I am great, you are great, what's happening. uh, Indian companies like often bring operational excellence, and they have a scale, they have frugality, and those are biggest strength in today's business world. So let your result do the talking. Ignore whatever is happening in the market, what people are talking about the deal. And the last point which I will say is, be confident but culturally sensitive. And
Hmm.
you will see that in our entire talk, we will talk about culture, 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 Kaustav, because that's a one area, and because you started with that as a marriage,
Hmm.
because marriage is a marriage of two cultures. So,
Hmm.
uh, and culture plays such an important role. You can have the best integration plan on paper. Uh, I have hired McKinsey or BCG or Bain to do the integration, but what will happen if people are not ready to integrate? So, culturally sensitive is the last point which companies need to take off when they are looking at Western world.
Right. Understood. Excellent point, Abhishek. Let the results do the talking. I mean, this is something which we can all take and we all apply. Right? Talking about egos, there are a lot of targets which do not want to get acquired, right? Yet buyers are adamant, and we often get to see hostile takeovers. For example, there was NDTV being acquired. Twitter is a great example initially, right? How do PMI leaders approach a hostile takeover and ensure that the target is integrated without causing disruptions to the buyer?
Okay. So I have not seen myself a lot of hostile takeovers naturally, because this is not a very general phenomena which we will see, and I have never been part of such project, but still let's take a hit on this, because they are hostile takeovers are a different beast altogether, if I will say, right? Because unlike friendly M&As, where we know that we will follow the process and both parties are aligned on vision, values, but hostile takeovers initially create a lot of mistrust, resistance, and anxiety amongst employees, amongst customers. And that is the reason, as a PMI leaders, we have to take it little different. So, first thing is, we need to shift the mood from being hostile to human. As I said, right, initially everyone is talking about mistrust, resistance, and anxiety. The first thing which, as a PMI team, we should be looking at is shifting the mood from hostile to human. The first job is emotional de escalation. And like often we have seen that acquired company, they have been ambushed by a lot of people coming together, and they say, oh no, we will follow this, we will do this because this is our company doing it from the last many years. Let's let's take a step back in such a case, because first we have to move from an hostile view to a human view. And as you said, think about this NDTV Adani takeover. There was intense public scrutiny, media backlash, and an internal uncertainty. But a smart PMI team in such cases can focus on transparent communications, rethinking key talent, and that is the most important thing when we talk about companies, people, and clearly stating what's changing and what's not. And that's something which we all fall into the circle of what's not changing. Because if we start talking about what's not changing, we will have 1,000 items, and what's changing, we will only have 10 items. So let's talk about it, and that will change the mood. That, okay, oh, 99% of things are not changing. So we are all safe. The company, the business will run as it is. Second point is, conduct a silent audit before any cultural crash, right? So before pushing changes, understand the pulse of the acquired company, especially culture, key influencers who are the high level people. We need to take them on our side. Employee morale, customer sentiment, because you don't want to lose the business, right? And often these hostile takeovers come with a leadership exits, and that's what we have seen in Twitter as well, right? Parag was got fired. So you need to quickly identify that who the stabilizers are within the target and win them over. And that's the one thing which I will say that is true in most of the companies, but in hostile, this plays a very big role. And same, like this is the case of Twitter, where Elon Musk, right, where he fired Parag and a lot of other key people within the first 30 days. So that can destabilize the company. Another point is protect the core business of the buyer. Now, here, uh, I'm not talking about the seller, I'm talking about the buyer. Because don't integrate too fast. When it's an hostile takeover, sometimes it is not just the target which will get disrupt. It can be the buyer also who will also can get disrupt because of the quick integration. Because they are two different cultures and they have an hostile mind, right? They are not stable. So here what we can do is we can fast track certain quick wins or areas where the synergies can be quick, like usually shared services. We keep talking about HR, finance, tech, where we can quickly get those synergies. And then we can have a slow roll areas like brand, leadership style, customer relationships, because these are the areas which will get impacted very quickly. So these are 2 3 points which I will say we can do as part of PMI team to ensure that these hostile takeovers have been taken care of.
There's one interesting point that you mentioned right now, Abhishek, that the team needs to be smart. You
Yes.
need to understand the communication bit of it. You need to strategize it, and all the key aspects have to be moving in sync when such an effort or such a massive integration effort is taking place. But now, what I believe in this is the people leading this effort speak a lot in that terms, through their strategies, through the way they communicate, and the way this effort is led. Now, let's maybe deep dive into one of the debates that is taking place around this exact aspect. That is whether a company should have an internal team for M&A or hire experts. And another point of it is whether they should actually have someone to drive this or a business unit, which is a domain lead, pretty much. Should they do this effort? So, what is your take on it?
Varun, another great question, and I will say I have been part of both the sides. So when I was part of EY Parthenon, I was a consultant where we used to help companies in getting their integration, leading the PMI initiatives for them. And when I was part of Maersk, I was on the other side of the table when we were as an internal team, PMI team, we were leading the integration of a couple of integrations during my time. So there are pros and cons of all this, but what I will say is it's a team effort. And where I'm coming from is as a PMI leader, right? It needs to be someone from the business. Why? Because the person understands the criticality of the business as well as the leadership style. And that can be a PMI leader for this entire project. And then within a PMI leader, as a PMI team, we can have third party consultants, we can have dedicated integration teams, right? That will help and support. And that I have seen even when I was consultant, like from a client, a PMI leader is always coming from a business unit head, though they have hired EY or KPMG or BCG or Bain, but their leader from their side who's leading that effort and is a sponsor, right? Usually they are the business unit head. The biggest area of practice here is the person should understand the business and person should have a good relationship with the leaders, because then a lot of decisions can be taken quickly, and that's what you need when you are doing such large projects, that you don't delay the decisions because your leaders are not aligned. And along with that, you can have a dedicated integration teams only and only if you are acquisitive in nature. If you are not acquisitive in nature, then what these people will be doing when you don't have any acquisition in your own organization? And what happens is usually what I have seen in a lot of companies, I can't name those companies, they have taken these people out from the PMI team when they don't have a project and they are into the business. And when they are doing a new integration, they are not able to bring the same people back. So it's a waste. You have trained them, they have learned some good methodologies of PMI and best practices, but now they are not available. So, and there are companies where and let's talk about Google, Microsoft, right? They acquire 100 companies in a year, smaller companies. So they have a dedicated team. Along with the consultants, they have dedicated team. They understand the process. They understand. They have a playbooks which they can follow. Uh, but only if you are acquisitive in nature. If you are not, then I would not suggest dedicated integration teams. Then you hire an external consultant because they have better understanding of the PMI playbook, which they can apply to your deal as well. So I hope I'm able to answer this.
Yes, Abhishek, absolutely. And what you said is correct. I mean, the business leaders are best placed to understand what their company's existing culture is, and they also have a good sense of why they want to acquire the incoming company. So
Right.
definitely, they are the ones who should be driving this particular effort. Speaking of leaders, Abhishek, what kind of person should never handle a PMI or a carve out? What soft skills or egos actually derail the value creation, which is the most important part in a position?
Okay, Kaustubh. So I will divide that into two questions because these are two different questions I see. Right, what type of person should never be allowed to run PMI or carve out? Hmm, interesting one. I will say a person who's about to retire, who don't want to be very much involved, or who's not stable for the organization. Anyone who's stable with the organization and will be serving for the next 10 years at least. I'm talking 10 years because I'm talking about leaders, right? Leaders don't shift companies till the time they don't see any value in their role. So we should have a person uh, who is who has good understanding of company culture. Again, I think I'm repeating that. They have a good relationship with the leaders. They understand their customers, because most of the times we keep i I know people can drop their thoughts in the comments, but a lot of the time we, as a consultants or as a PMI team, we keep focusing on culture for the outside world. But what about customers, those right? Why we don't talk about customers? And we need a person who understands the customer pulse, and that is very important. Like a person who's leading this should understand the customer pulse. So this is your answer of the first part. What soft skills or egos we should actually look at, because that kills value creation, is uh, when you're not collaborative in nature. Entire PMI has been set up on one agenda of collaboration. So the soft skill is people management, understanding every other department, what's their vision, what's their goal, are they aligning towards a central goal or not, and if they are not collaborative in nature. And usually leaders know, to be honest, everyone knows that okay, my boss is collaborative or not, or my subordinate is collaborative or not. So if they're not collaborative, they will be like it's a my way or highway. And then your target might not be interested in getting integrated into your organization, and they start thinking, having a distrust. So when you are looking at value creation, you need to think of collaboration, bringing your target company on your board. I'm not talking about board of directors, but in this PMI purview, you need to bring those people quickly on the board. And I have seen, and I am also a part of those PMI teams, and um, um, I'm the culprit of it, that I might not have brought the target company's people very quickly on the PMI team. But that's a big mistake which I have done. I have learned it hard way. But within the first 30 days, when you have already identified the top leaders, bring them on board, work with them to get the integration done. That will bring a lot of value creation. So that's the short answer of egos.
Actually, a very interesting answer. And now, what I feel is you did explain in depth about how you need to soften someone's egos. And now, what I understand, PMI needs to have multiple expertise buckets in hand. It's right, not only related to project management skills, it's right communication skills and multiple such skills. But from what I know, from what I last checked, none of the institutes offer such courses where you can maybe get a good experience in PMI or any of it, or some learning curve towards it. So, if a person needs to prepare for such a role, or he's been dreaming about working in such a nice field, what should he do? Or maybe an MBA or a CA, or what should he keep in mind while he's preparing for this role?
Varun, let's be honest here. There is no institute in the world who provide a course related to PMI. Whenever we talk about M&A, we talk about deals, we talk about valuations, and that's it. So I've seen courses of Harvard, Stanford, IIMs, ISBs. They don't talk about that. Okay, we are talking about M&A, valuation, DCF, whatnot, what else, right? What else you need to do? But no one talks about it. So uh, let me take it one by one here. Yes, there are no course, but there can be certain things which which a person needs to take care of when they are preparing for it, right? There are certain case studies available which can be used in the MBA courses or the case studies which are there on Harvard or other platforms like Ivy, where people can look at it. Okay, what exactly they need if they need to work in a PMI. What I will say is, and as a PMI leader myself, there's we need to be very cautious. Like, we're not talking about the bulldozer. What I mean to say is, people start thinking about when they're talking about PMIs. Look, oh, I have done 15 integrations before. I know how this works. Let's just implement the playbook. And this you might have been heard of during your corporate life as well. Okay, let's follow the playbook. What you have done in the last 15 deals cannot be 100% replicated in the next deal. And if and as a consultant, it will 100% not going to implement. But within a company, if I've done 10 deals in the similar sector, you're not sure that 11th company will be following the same process, same playbook, right? So it's not a copy paste job. Every deal has unique emotions, unique stakeholders, legacy issues, and hidden landmines. so, so you have to take care of these aspects. And another one is, I will say, sometimes we consider PMI as the over planner and underdoer. We keep on planning, and as a PMI, I think initially, depending on the deal size, first 4 5 months we only plan till the time our day one kicks in. So we keep on planning. We will have our decks, charts, war room set up. But when it comes to actually dealing with the uncomfortable situations, conversations, people take a step back. Oh, I have not planned for this. Why my 10 clients are changing to the competitor, right? Because, and why my people are not ready for the change, or there's a frontline chaos, right? Salespeople, because the sales commission usually change with the companies changing in hand. So it's not just strategy, right? So that's what I said. Like, don't just over plan and do underdo. But it's not just strategy. It's about sweat, negotiations, persuasion, and even showing up. And the one thing which you talked about in the previous question was the ego, right? Egocentric hero. So this person cannot be egocentric. The person who's leading or who's working as part of a PMI don't love what you have been doing, and that's a very harsh truth, right? The person needs to be a savior. I have seen those cases where I'm in a meeting and people just stood up and left the meeting room because they don't agree with another department. So that they want the spotlight, they want the credit, right? They want the LinkedIn post that says, "Oh, led a successful integration of X crore." So that's not what they are supposed to be. So, but so it comes from making others succeed. The people need to understand when they are want to be a part of PMI. It is not our success; it's business. And at the end, I will hand over the business to the business. For the period of integration, as a PMI team, I might be looking at from a very high level, but at the end of the day, I have to hand over the business to the business. So I am the savior for them. So empowering the cross-functional teams, and that's what I said, the person needs to be collaborative, right? I cannot take the credit away from the cross functional teams. I cannot take the credit from IT, who is doing the cutovers without any sleep from the last 4 days. We all have seen that, right? And another thing is, like, you have to listen more than you speak, because one, you don't know the business know the business. You are just a facilitator of this integration. So these are the few aspects which people need to learn, and people can pick up these from different cases and see, okay, these are skills which I need to learn if I need to be part of the PMI team.
Hmm, right. I mean, this answer, uh, I mean, it sounds so amazing, right? Setting up war rooms and don't be a hero, be a savior, or keeping ego aside. I mean, PMI is no easy task. Well, Abhishek, you started out in Big Fours, in consulting firms, then you went on to the other side. You worked with Maersk, taken all this experience, and now you have decided to take a jump into your starting into your own PMI consulting firm. What inspired you to take that decision and leave the partner track role in Big Fours that you had?
Oh, that's one personal. And I will be brutally honest here, Kaustubh. So, because what I've seen is, when I moved back to India, you have large consulting firms who are providing these services of PMI or SMO to organizations. But in India, what's happening right now is there's a large set of MSMEs, right, who are into their transformation mode, and naturally they cannot hire a big four and MBB to get services, because the revenue might be this equal to what they charge as a fees, right? And then they need, and there are no small players who can provide these services, because usually there is a mindset like, oh, when you are thinking of PMI, you need to have a bigger team. You need to have a consultant who's coming to you on a daily basis, and they will provide you solutions, playbook, which we usually overused in our pitches to clients. But that is not the truth on the ground when we are talking about MSMEs who are acquiring companies of sizes of 5 crores of revenue, 10 crores of revenue. They can't hire big fours. So that inspired me to start my own firm and be a helping hand of these MSMEs who are riding the Indian growth right now. There can be another Adani, Reliance, Aditya Birla, and some of the companies which we will see from the 10 years from down the line, coming from the MSME group, because they are doing a lot of acquisitions. Uh, they don't want to miss the growth bus of the Indian economy, and even diversify. So that was the one area why I thought, like, okay, I will start my own consulting firm, and this is giving me a lot of me time as well. You understand that when you are part of consulting firm, you're always on your toes, but when you're running and working with MSME clients, you get some breathing space too.
So yes, Abhishek, I what you mentioned about starting your own company, it must have been a very exciting journey, and I'm sure you must be missing those old corporate days. Nothing like the gray wall and the backbenches and just the office chair. I am sure about it. But let me, there will be certain aspects that you don't miss, certain processes that you have maybe thought like there are better ways to be done. So can you just maybe give an overview or even deep dive into it? More the merrier.
Absolutely. So, what I will say is, becoming independent was like switching from a cruise ship to a kayak. Suddenly, there is no brand behind you, no process to hide behind, and definitely no IT help desk when things crash, right? So, these are the things which you usually look at when you're working in a corporate. As you said, like, there's no brand behind me. So, but what independence forces me to unlearn, right? And that's a very important part, was is like, when you're in a working in a corporate, you seek frequent consensus, right? Because progress of the project often hinges on consensus, endless meetings, stakeholder buy-in, layered approvals. But as an independent, the speed and clarity matters more. because not everyone needs to agree. You must trust your judgment and move decisively. That's a first thing which I think it's very uh, one thing which I have to unlearn. The second is overhauling process or outcomes. As I said, like when we were thinking about the PMI and project management, a lot of times it's just a tick mark, but there is no elaborative frameworks, checklist, and step-by-step best practices or templates which you have to use when you're working independently. It's like tailored solutions to a tailored situations, and even if it means breaking with standard methods. So you have to create new methodologies, new frameworks on the basis of these companies, and quick execution. That's another important aspect which I learned. And another, I'm again going to the same one, PMI one. Mistakenly, we as part of the large corporate, right? We consider activity as a progress. Like if my PMI workbook, which is a step by step activity, is moving in the right way, then I will consider that as progress. But when you are working right independently with the smaller organizations, actually the impact counts. Like what is the impact you have created with that activity? And busyness does not. So if you are busy just creating dashboards and all those things when you're working in large corporates, here you don't have to do it because you're working with founders directly, so they need to see the output then and there, and they will say, oh, what's the impact. It's kind of an agile environment where your output is coming after every 2 weeks. And the first part which I said, there is no institutional cover to hide on. So you don't have any brand to hide on. So there is no hierarchy to blame on and to say, okay, I will check with my partner, or partner will say, oh, I will check with my account manager and what's happening. And as an independent, you must own your own voice and recommendations and risks which you are taking, because there is no brand to hide behind. So I think these are the few things which I have unlearned and which is helping me to run my own business.
which is really interesting. And I'm pretty sure it, it it breaks off the shackles as well as gives you new challenges. So I'm pretty sure you're learning a lot of new things, right? And creating your own new best practices that when you will become as large, will will become the modern day frameworks. Um, Abhishek, uh, since past 1 year, you have 1.5 years, you have started content creation, right? A lot of people have come down into creating content. Everyone's writing on LinkedIn, doing podcasts on YouTube, but a lot of it is not as impactful, right? What was your perspective when you started content creation, and what was your inspiration behind this?
So, Costa, my inspiration was my students, and I have been talking about this since last 1.5 years. So, my students always comes to me and say, "Oh, sir, if I'm getting this kind of a role, what I will be doing there, right?" And to give that comfort, you either you go to your alumni, right, if you have a good college, or you will look to certain videos or LinkedIn posts. So naturally this was my purpose, like to help students, to help young professionals who can learn from these nitbits, right? And nowadays when I started, and nowadays everything is available on Gen AI as well. You write what I want to learn, you will get it, but they might not be in the language which is easy to understand, right? When a person is talking about face to face, or maybe I'm listening to videos, I might be able to connect with him or her, and that's what make this different than what Gen AI can do. So Gen AI can do everything. I do take help of Gen AI in terms of building the content, but the nuances which I can add is coming from my experience. And that's what I will say when you are saying that people don't have an impactful content. When you are just 21-year old and in the college and you talk about life lessons, right? That is not an impact. Absolutely. And you will see on LinkedIn nowadays, people who are in the college, they're doing graduations, they talk about life lessons that, oh, you should do this, you should do that in your life to be more successful. I don't think so. They might have taken perspective from their parents or from the people around them, but that's not their own perspective. That's what it is missing when I look at LinkedIn and certain YouTube channels. But whomsoever has some knowledge should work on content creation, because why I'm saying it, if even if at least 10 people are looking at it and learning some bit of from it, you are successful. You don't need a million views to be a successful. You need to create an impact on one person life in your entire life. I will say in your entire life. So even if you have changed one person's life or contribute to their success, you are successful. And that's the motive I live with when I'm creating my content. I want to work and with people who have done something in their careers and can share their knowledge to others so that they can be successful. And I'm not denying the fact that I had couple of not couple, more than couple of guests who were in their 21 to 24-year age, right? But they are successful in what they are doing. So if they are successful, they can share their stories. They will inspire other to be successful and to start early. And that's what we have learned from all the founders. We have seen Elon Musk all started at 16, 17, or maybe 15 when they were studying. And then they became successful after some time. So for me, content creation on LinkedIn, on YouTube, for me, it's knowledge sharing, helping others, and also getting engagement with people. So these are three things. And people should write content. People should feel free to use these mediums to share content. Even if they don't, even if someone is not consuming it, someday someone will consume it. So that's my mantra on content creation.
Abhishek, it's been really, really interesting so far. And, after this question, this brings us to the rapid fire section of our interview. Are you ready to shoot answers to our questions?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. First, what do you like more, corporate or consulting?
Consulting any day.
What do you like more, carve outs or integration?
Carve outs. More challenging.
Okay. Uh, your one learning from your last project, goof up or failure.
Record everything. You never know when they will when they will change their thoughts.
What is the
Okay.
most exciting aspect of PMI?
Um, Collaboration. You get to work with different teams.
Your go-to tool for project management, Excel or a specialized tool?
Oh, people will still stick to Excel, and I will still love the tool.
One word that describes your work style.
Collaborative and giving independence to everyone.
Now, this one is interesting. What is one red flag you look for post-close?
Ooh, cultural integration.
Hmm. And decision making during crunch moments, data or gut?
For me, it's always data. I will not go with gut because you never know. Your data never like will not tell lies, but your gut is your gut.
All right. Fantastic. This has been amazing. And frankly, I don't know. I was expecting gut to be the answer. And I'm pretty sure most of our viewers were like, yeah, yeah, gut feeling, gut feeling. But yeah, this was a surprise answer. And yeah, data never lies. So unless the data is wrong. Thank you very much, Abhishek, for giving us your valuable time. Your insights have been fantastic, and I'm pretty sure it all people, right? People who are aspiring to get into this, people who have just started, and people who are in mid or seasoned professionals in PMI roles, they'll all benefit from this particular interview. And yeah, I would also urge everyone who is watching this interview to go and check out Abhishek Mittal's page. Uh, I believe it is Wisdom Whisperers.
Yes.
Go check out his channel. I have personally seen a few videos and they are amazing. It's not just about M&A, it's general life lessons. But yeah, I'll allow Abhishek to talk about his channel a little more.
Great. Thanks, Kaustav, and thanks, Varun, for this great opportunity to talk about M&A, which is very near to me. And about my channel, I will say if you are looking for a corporate challenge and what exactly you will be doing next, what are different roles available in the market, go ahead and check it. And you will get a lot of tips around if you want to build certain skills because people do come to me and say, Abhishek, I want to join consulting. What are the things which I need to work on? Oh, there are so many lessons available in my videos. So go out and check it out and do subscribe it. So
All right. Amazing. So I believe this brings us to the end of this video. Thank you once again, Abhishek. And for our viewers, we are coming out with a lot of interesting content in coming days. Stay tuned.
and do subscribe.